Hey, what is going on, you terrified Turtwig? Today we're taking a look at Hops, and it's not as much of a Hops Zacian deck as I thought it would be, but this is the way that Hops has been being played over in Japan for a little while now, or since the card's release, and it's a little bit disappointing. As you can tell, there's no metal energy in here, so we're not going to be attacking with the Brave Slash from the Zacian EX. It's all about the Insta Slash. It's a basic Pokemon, 230 HP. Insta Slash does 30 damage, and then 30 more damage to one of our opponent's benched Pokemon. But we're going to be doing a little bit more damage than that. The Snorlax, Hops Snorlax, increases our Hops Pokemon damage by 30. The ability doesn't stack, though, so we're only getting 30 from there. But then we have the Post-Twix Stadium, which allows us to do 30 more damage to our opponent's active Pokemon, so that's plus 60. And then the Hops Choice Band is another 30 damage. So we're looking at hopefully 120 and 30 to one of our opponent's benched Pokemon with that Insta Slash. All for, well, 0 energy, because not only does the Hops Choice Band do 30 more damage to the active Pokemon, it also reduces the attack cost by 1 colorless less for our Hops Pokemon this card is attached to. So Zacian is going to be our opener in most matchups in most games. And then from there, the Cramorant takes over. And just like the Hops Zacian, it gets all the damage buffs that the Zacian is getting. So it says 120 damage here, but we're going to be looking to do around 210, 180 to 210, depending on how many of the modifiers we can find. And its attack for a colorless energy, which could be 0 energy with the Choice Band, does 120 damage, but can't be used unless our opponent has exactly 3 or 4 prize cards remaining. So early game, we use the Zacian, our opponent KOs the Zacian, and then we get in there with back-to-back Crams, and then we close out the game with Ursaluna, or we could get back into the Zacian. Even the Snorlax is like a reasonable attacker in this deck because of the Choice Band. We don't need to ever attach energy for turn to attack with Zacian or with Cram, so we can attach our energy for turn to the Snorlax to potentially utilize its Dynamic Press as an attack, or we set up Monkey Dories, and that's why we play 6 Dark Energy in here, so we can attach for turn to the Monkey Dories, and those become our uses for our energy. We don't actually attach to any of our Pokemon, or we don't have to. We can still, like if we don't find a Choice Band turn 1, but we find a Dark Energy, we can go ahead and put it on the Zacian instead. And then for the support Pokemon in here, I got double Tatsugiri, because we are going to be having quite a few turns of our Pokemon getting knocked out and then being able to run to Tatsugiri back and forth, because we're going to try and attack with double Cram in most matchups. In like the Dragapult matchup specifically, we actually just kind of become like a spread deck. So against Dragapult, you just use Zacian and Monkey Dory to move the damage that they put onto us, and then you eventually go into a TM Devo and kind of board wipe their side of the field as much as you possibly can. Up against matchups like Raging Bolt, or I'm trying to think of like another matchup like a Raging Bolt, or like those are the only 2 decks. Oh, like an Ogerpon box, something like that. You open up with the Zacian, and then you go into a couple Crams, maybe a Snorlax, and then you close out the game with the Ursaluna. So you just try and avoid having any 2 prizes in play besides that initial Zacian. We do have a Pheasantipity in here, but it's a little bit more situational. It's not something we want to have in play all the time. The only other Hops card I didn't mention quite yet, but it's still a pretty good one, is the Hops Bag. Search your deck for up to 2 basic Hops Pokemon and put them onto your bench as an item card. Is pretty good. Of course, we still play for Nest Ball, but a couple Hops Bag doesn't hurt. And then for the supporter lineup, of course, we're heavy on the tool cards. Not only do we need the Rescue Boards for the Tatsugiri, and then obviously the Choice Bands are pretty good to find. So of course we're an Arven build. We got 4 Pokegear to help back that up to find it aggressively. And I've actually gone the Secret Box route currently. I'm not sold on Secret Box being the way to go, but I do like the idea of it. Allows us to aggressively get 2 tools out of our deck on the first turn of the game. If we open something like the Monkey Dory or the Cram or the Tatsugiri, get the Rescue Board and the Choice Band for our Zacian. Then also finds us our Stadium, the Post-Twix Stadium, which is super important to find to be putting on that pressure. And then whatever item card we need besides that, of course. And then a backup supporter for the following turn as well. So I like the idea of the Secret Box. I'm not sure it's necessary, but I like the idea of actually being able to have a consistent way to find the Post-Twix Stadium besides just naturally drawing into it. So that's what really drew me to the Secret Box inclusion. But you can't argue against something like Prime Catcher, obviously. So I'm not sold on Secret Box, but it's where I'm starting. For the other supporters here, 3 Iono for a little bit of disruption potential, especially up against like Dragapult. There's going to be some long back and forth games. And even up against stuff like Raging Bolt, we might want to be a little bit disruptive as well. 2 Research in here, some heavy draw support, and then 2 Boss's Orders and 2 Counter Catcher, because we will be falling behind a decent amount, especially up against stuff like Raging Bolt. We're just going to be using Zacian early. They're going to get like the first 2 prize cards, and then from there, utilizing those counter catchers at some point potentially. 1 penny for a little bit of picking up, resetting our Zacian in the slower matchups where we're not getting 1-hit KO'd, and then 1 Black Belt's Training. I'm not sure this is necessary or if it'll come up, but I went ahead and threw it in here because why not have another situational supporter, another power supporter in the deck. For the rest of the deck, some Vessels to help us find our energy. 1 Night Stretcher for some recovery. We don't really need much recovery in this deck. Maybe a 2nd Night Stretcher, but I probably want to go further than that. 1 Switch in here as well. Actually, I'm trying to think, why the heck did I put the... Oh, we do need to be able to like move our Snorlax. Our Snorlax has 4 retreat costs, so we do need a way to move this thing. I was like, why do I have a Switch in here? But yeah, also, like I mentioned before, we can just attack with Snorlax, which is really, really nice. It only takes 2 turns to set up. We can attach to it, then next turn go attach Choice Band plus attach, and the Snorlax is swinging. We might need a little bit higher of a switch count. We do have some pretty hefty squad in here. The 2 Snorlax and the Ursaluna opening with either of those is going to slow us down quite a bit. So yeah, we might need to adjust accordingly. But for right now, 1 switch seems decent. Or if we go to the Prime Catcher, like a switch and a Prime Catcher might be all we need. And yeah, I mean, that's it. That's my first take on hops. I don't think any of the ways, unfortunately, with Metal Energy are very good. Of course, we do have some decent Metal Energy acceleration in the format. The Archaludon and the Metang are both solid options, but neither just fit great with the hops deck, especially with how much bench space you want to commit to stuff like Snorlax. If you're thinking about like the Archaludon or the Metang, actually Archaludon or Metang, it's not just like Metang and Zacian, because then we're only doing 240 damage, and even with the Choice Band and the Post Wick, which we'll have to play pretty high counts of, even in a Metang deck, which means how are we fitting enough energy in a Metang deck to hit energy off the Metangs becomes the question. We also want like bench space for Snorlax, and like a follow-up Zacian to start building that up. The Archaludon, I think, is a little bit more reasonable as a way to play the Zacian EX, but even then, I could only see the Zacian EX being included. It's just too much, you know? You need the, like, because hitting 240 is nice, but there's already ways to kind of like make Archaludon get to those numbers by itself, especially with like Maximum Belt now. That Scoop Cyclone has become a lot worse in Archaludon because of the lack of Dialga. So you would need like to be playing Choice Band. That only gets us to 270, so that's not quite good enough. And even if we have Snorlax on our bench, that only gets us to 300. We're looking for like the big 1-hit KO numbers on like a Dragapult. So then we need to be playing Post Wick, we have to be playing the Choice Band, we have to be playing the Snorlax, get it all together, and then get 4 or 3 Metal Energy, I guess, on the Zacian, because we'd have the Choice Band, and that will get us that big 1-hit KO. So I just don't see it synergizing well enough. I think if you put this in an Archaludon deck, it would just be too clunky. But Arven's pretty good right now, so that'd be another excuse to play Arven in an Archaludon deck, because then that would help you find your Choice Band. So I could see it working. It just seems overwhelming. I actually just really like this deck as well. I think this deck is just really, really cool. So I'm really excited to try this one out when the set drops next week. So it's gonna be one of the probably the first decks I play is this spread hops. It's a spread deck in some matchups, and then it's a cram deck in other matchups. It's really not a Zacian deck like at all. You're either a spread deck, well, I guess it is a Zacian deck with the spread, but you're a Zacian spread or you're a cram deck in those more aggressive matchups. So I'm excited to give this one a shot when it drops. Let me know what you think. Do you think Metal Hops Zacian has any potential, or is this going to be how we're going to have to run Hops Zacian for right now? In the future, you never really know, of course, but yeah, I'm betting on this build for sure. Catch y'all in the next one.